the first thing we're going to be talking about is Eternals, my favorite topic, probably yours too.
Best movie from Marvel to come out.
Bro, I know you saw this. I posted about Eternals last week on Instagram, and like everyone still thinks this movie's going to be good. And I don't get it. It doesn't even like.
Why did I think that this movie was coming out this past weekend?
I
don't know why I
don't know.
that.
It doesn't come out for.
I posted on
2
Instagram about it, and I'm like, no, it doesn't come out this weekend.
Yeah,
no one's going to see it. That's why everybody voted no.
Yeah.
Not everybody voted no, but majority of people voted no.
I guess you should be more concerned about the people who said yes. Yeah, so it comes out a week from the day that this episode will go live, which would be Thursday, which is also the day that I'm going to see Last Night in Soho. So that's Edgar Wright's new movie. It's kind of like, he describes it as a time travel murder mystery, or like time travel slasher or something like that. So I was like, well, he's one of my favorite directors. So he's one of my favorite directors for like 2 reasons. One, he makes great films, and 2, he kind of keeps his mouth shut about his like opinions. Like he talks about it occasionally. Like he's still part of that like Hollywood crowd or whatever, but he does a pretty good job of like, it's like, I'm a filmmaker. Like, this is what I do. This is what I'm proud of. This is what I love. It's his craft. Right. And just like with Denis Villeneuve, who we'll talk about with Dune later, he's another guy who, like, I don't know what his political leanings are or whatever, but
could care less too.
And exactly, but his craft is the thing that he puts out there, and those are people that I would rather. I mean, even if I disagree with them on stuff, like, I'd rather support that than people who just won't shut up about their intersectional garbage and the message and all that. All right, so let's talk about Eternals. Let's see, the premiere, I think, was a week ago.
Yep. It was, I believe. You're right.
Close to it. I was looking to see if the article said anything about it. So
wasn't it October 24th, or was that the Rome one?
No, because that was like Sunday.
Yesterday. Yeah.
So anyway, they had
I think it was last week sometime.
It was definitely last week sometime, and I don't know why it's not mentioning. When was this written? October 18th, so it was probably somewhere within that time period, probably the day before, 2 days before. Anyway, there was an early screening. This is where the world premiere of it was, and it's really interesting to read some of these like blue checkmark tweets about the movie. So I just wanted to run through these, and then I want to read some of the current Rotten Tomatoes like version of the tweets where they kind of give you just a summary of it. But this first one says, actually, I'll put these on the. Here we go. It says, hashtag Eternals. Wow, a lot to unpack. If Marvel movies are a Venn diagram, variations within that overlap, this movie is off the charts. Hands down the most different of any of their films. Joseph.
This tweet was sponsored by Marvel and Disney.
What does it mean?
Oh, man. A lot of times I feel like these people have to be paid by Disney or whoever.
So, I would agree with you.
That doesn't even make any sense. It reminds me of someone trying to talk really intelligent, reviewing a and failing miserably.
It feels like people who think they know how to be critics.
A critic.
Or how to think critically about something. And they use words and try to make it sound very flat, like it's like flowery language, you know, and it just kind of hides nonsense. Because if Marvel movies are a Venn diagram, variations within that overlap, this movie is off the charts. So it's not
a Venn diagram of what? So
he's saying, like, if Marvel movies are a Venn diagram, so they all kind of connect in a certain way, and that pieces of them fit into other pieces, and there's similarities between them, which sure, that's correct. He says this movie is off the charts. So does that mean that this isn't in the Venn diagram? So why did you bring that up to begin with? And then hands down the most different of any of their films. Like, that's not telling me anything.
Nope.
Like, what
Doesn't tell
does
me
that
if it's a good
mean?
movie. Nothing.
All right, so let's move on to this
No
next one.
breakdown.
Marvel's Eternals is spectacularly weird and rich with a new MCU mythology that makes it feel separate from everything else, right? So here's this same thing again, that it's different, right? It's honestly refreshing. There's a bitter sweetness to the film that you feel in its sunset shots. A definite Chloe Zhao touch. It is soulful and thoughtful. So again, great. It's like these people are watching this and they're trying to put their emotions about it into a tweet rather than telling you how they really feel. And you were saying before, I want to make this point. I don't think most of these people are paid by Disney. I don't think they have to be, because their real intention is that they just want to keep getting invited back to these events.
They want that access.
Yeah, because for those
it's
of
all
you,
about the access.
Exactly. For those of you that don't know, when they do these world premieres and they invite critics, quote unquote critics, journalists, whatever, your only way of getting back in, right? Because they're making money off of the good reviews. Like if the reviews are good for a product that they're putting out, people might listen to them and they might go and do it. It's why, like, you and I will never, probably in any sort of realistic expectation, even if we got to a place where we were popular enough, right?
Right.
I should say when. We should be positive about that. When we get to that. When we get to that point.
Yes.
Because we're gonna speak our minds, and I'm definitely not gonna say I like something if I don't like it. It's gonna be like, yeah, no, it sucked.
Authenticity and honesty builds rapport, credibility, trustworthiness, and Marvel movies, comic book hero movies in general, have just had a specific generic formula. No tie down to them. Nothing amazing about them. Nothing great, just kind of the same old standard formula to get the audience, and ooh, nice shots, ooh, same thing. And
here's one. I agree with you. This one's great. Holy crap, Eternals is a freaking masterpiece. Okay. Packed with adrenaline right from the start, but also filled with lots of heart and humor. So many MCU firsts. Well, what do you think that means, Joseph? Your mind will be blown. Nods to comics, but a totally unique story. Those end credits are game changers. Okay. Do you want to start? Or you want me to start?
You go ahead.
The first thing that stands out to me, and this is a common problem, and it really has been even before this new phase, is this line right here at the very end that says, "These end credits are game changers," which I won't spoil, just to be nice. It's not that big of a deal. It's actually kind of lame. And and for those of you that oops, I didn't mean to open that. For those of you that are somewhat aware of what's going on, there's a rumor about a specific once musician that's going to be in this movie, and he's playing a character that's related to the overall universe already. So it's stupid.
I forget his name.
Yeah, I won't mention it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I trolled a friend of mine because she was like, after that post, and I can't remember what I said, but she's like, "Oh yeah, this person's in it. That's why I'm excited to see it." And I went, "Who's that?" And I knew who it was, you know. And she sent me like a link to like his Internet Movie Database page, and I was like, whoa. I was like, I'm just kidding. Like, I know who it is. I was just trolling. Yeah, man, I don't know. And then a friend of ours, he asked me, he goes, well, what do you mean? Why don't you think this is going to be good? And I sent him like this paragraph, and he's like, I'm regretting asking you.
Yep.
Because I just pointed out the stuff we talk about on here all the time. And the one that I think is the kicker for a lot of people that just they can't get past is the one that we talk about all the time. It's like this weird morality that the Marvel movies have now. Like the heroes do things that aren't very heroic, but then they're explained to us as if they're heroic.
Yeah, right. Just like, oh, they murdered the entire village for the village's own good.
Right.
The village had a headache, so they shot them all.
Yeah, it's the
villagers, I should say.
It's the stuff where they go, oh yeah, this was like such a great movie, and I go, okay, well, what about that part where Black Widow was cool with her sister killing an entire prison of people? And then the one response that I got from someone one time was like, well, they were already in prison for something, and I'm like, that's not a reason to kill them all. Not to mention, do you think
justifies it?
Yeah, it's like, do you think the only people that work in a prison are that are in a prison are just the prisoners? It's like, you do realize that it requires staff to continue working. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
it's absolutely ridiculous, and it goes to what we've been talking about a lot, is that pretty visuals. Though even some of that, it's hard for me to understand why people think some of these Marvel movies look that good.
Yeah.
People are just looking for spectacle, and it has nothing to do with anything else going on. So, did you want to add anything else to that, or you want me to move on to some of these reviews?
No, you just move on to some of the reviews from all Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay. Have I convinced you to go see this yet?
Oh, I want to go see it.
Okay.
I want to go see it. Not for the reasons they want me to go see it for.
So I pulled up this is the Rotten Tomatoes. I pulled up the top critics. And I'll just read some of these off. It says, the weight of complicated exposition weakens the energy. What? Okay. So what they mean by the complicated exposition is the script, essentially. Like the dialogue in the script weakens the energy of Eternals a little too often. It's at its best when the focus is on the Eternals recreating their family, the humor of it, and the passion when they fight for each other and the things they love. That's a negative review, by the way. So I'm only reading the negative ones. Eternals may not be the worst of Marvel's movies, but it's undoubtedly the most disappointing. Which, okay, that's double speak. If it's the most disappointing, it has to be the worst, right?
Right.
Like if you have 3 children, or if I have 3 children, right? And I'm like, Joseph, you're the most disappointing, but you're not the worst. Is that not confusing?
That is confusing. That is confusing. I like this next one too.
Did you want to read it? Can you read it?
Constantly engaged in a kind of grit tooth authenticity theater. Going out of its way to show you it's doing all the things proper cinema does, even though none of them bring any discernible benefit whatsoever to the film at hand. Oh, man.
That was so
good. It makes you think he's going to compliment it.
I know. All these amazing things.
So sweet.
No, it sucks.
Yeah. You walk out in the depressing realization that you just seen one of the most interesting movies Marvel will ever make, and hopefully the least interesting one Chloe Zhao will ever make. Oh man,
I don't know, man. It's not looking good. I'm pretty excited for us to finally be able to talk about the movie once we go see it. Like that's really the only reason I want to go see it. I could really at this point care less about Marvel. I'm curious about Doctor Strange, but
yeah, here's a good one. This is kind of what we've been saying. This is from David from IndieWire, and he says, "Can't these movies do anything else? Is it too much to ask the most dominant kind of cinema on the planet to shake things up and challenge itself in a more significant way?"
Yes, David, it is. It's absolutely too much to ask. And it's funny that someone would say that. And again, these are critics, right? And I need to look into this a little bit more myself. They have I think they have new writers. I don't think the people writing this in Phase 4, I think a lot of the people after Endgame left. And they've had a whole new group of writers that are coming in because the tone and the world building is so bad right now.
It is. They should have just ended it with Endgame, man. I know.
And we've talked about it before. Like I always thought it would have made a lot more sense, especially in to kind of keep the train rolling, if Infinity War had been the end of Phase 3. And so you purposely decided characters and actors who weren't going to be around for like the next 3, 4, 5 years, right? And you do an entire phase where they're trying to undo what's happened. Instead of it being like one movie, right? You could have kept around certain characters, people who were willing to sign contracts to do that sort of stuff, right?
Right.
You potentially could have finally given the actual like Black Widow and Hawkeye movie that people wanted. Though I think Scarlett wanted to be done, but I'm sure if you had done one more movie that was like based on them, you know, even maybe if she dies she could have died at the end of that movie, right? And that sets up like she sacrifices herself for the potential good of everything else. But that's part of the problem with Marvel, and we'll get into it a little bit with Dune. But like Marvel doesn't have stakes. Nothing that happens in any of these movies matters, which is why the only thing that a lot of people care about is the end credit scene, because it's like, what's coming next? What's happening next? Tell me what's next. What's the bigger picture?
The movie itself sucks.
Yeah.